It is, I almost did my intro from my other channel. This is not that channel. This is a whole new project. So, hi guys. I'm Kita until I get an intro for over here or a cool saying or something. But I am Kita. I do have an artist named Cadillac. I'm an artist. That is my artist name that I use universally everywhere else. But here, this is just Kita and the things I went through in my life that lead me to believe that I am a chosen one and that I have a purpose that is not so popular. I have a purpose that's not so popular to achieve in this lifetime. And I do believe that I am the generational curse breaker. One of the curses that I am learning that has flowed throughout my bloodline has been narcissism. So, breaking that cycle of narcissistic abuse, not passing that trauma on to the next generation, and trying to prevent that spirit from flowing on, right? So, for me, my biggest, it's a lot of things that kind of set it up. Like, you know how they say it feels like the enemy was out to get you from the time you were born. Literally, that really seems to be the truth in my life. Um, so I have for so long, it's a lot of things that happened in my childhood that got me ready and prepped to be in a narcissistic relationship. Not one, but two major narcissistic relationships and several small little, relationships that were narcissistic. So the spirit just attaches itself to me, it seems like. Um, so the trauma in my childhood led me wanting a certain relationship. I'll reveal that later. And because this person came as though they understood me wanting that relationship and they were going to be a good relationship in my life, because I didn't have that first relationship that I needed. They came in through that window, that lacking window of wanting that relationship. Um, I might as well just go ahead and say it because it may not make no sense. Okay, I always wanted a good relationship with my mother. My mother has passed now. So before my mother passed, we did get our relationship to as good as, I mean, it wasn't a horrible relationship. It's just I desired the relationship with my mother. But my mother was always too busy. She had three other kids. One was epileptic and needed special attention. So it was just, I was kind of pushed to the side, like no time to devote to me. It was like a trickle down. They have to come first, and then if there's anything left, which there usually was not much left, for me, then I would get that attention, right? So I desired that. And I believe because I desire that so much, and plus, we don't have any family really. We have my father and his brother kind of moved here to Florida from Chicago a long time ago, to help build up Orlando. Orlando was emerging, so they came to help Orlando merge. I'm sorry, it's hot. I'm gonna have to turn my air on a little bit. I'll turn it on low and hopefully it doesn't disturb the audio and the video too much. But I'm sweating. I'm sorry. So anyway, they moved here to Florida. So that meant that we moved away from family. We didn't have a lot of family because it was kind of just us. Um, his brother, my dad's brother's family, which is my uncle's family, was here. And later, when I was 17, my mother's younger sister came to live here, her and her family. Okay, so that became a another group of family members, and I always desired family, I always wanted family. That was what I felt like I was lacking in my life. And that's where the enemy will come to attack you in your life, wherever you feel like you're lacking, right? So, because I desired the relationship with my mother and couldn't quite get it, my aunt tried to step into that place. And I think why I attached to her so much is because I desired, she was close enough to my mother. She came up in the same household as my mother, so she could somewhat fill that void of me wanting that relationship with my mother, right? So the biggest at night I'm sorry, 17, that was the biggest source of narcissism in my life, came through my aunt. And the second biggest source came through my cousin, my aunt's son. So I had two that kind of tag teamed me for years. So this was in the late 90s that they moved here. Okay, so when I knew them from afar, right? I knew my aunt from afar, and usually when you visit distant relatives, the relationship is always kind of perfect because they're showing you their hospitable. I probably can't even say that right, but their hospitable side, right? The hospitality. You're visiting from Florida, and I'm gonna, make sure this is the best stay that you have, and everybody's on their best behavior. Nobody's showing all their toxic traits, especially if you are a narcissist. You're not gonna show that toxic side. You are gonna love bomb. You are going to show your most loving, genuine, beautiful self to that person because you're trying to get them to connect and just have so much love for you that you disregard all the abuse you're about to dish out to them, right? So it was that stage. And from being from afar, it's easy to put that, y'all know that a narcissist wears a mask, so it's easy to put that mask on. This person don't live in the same state as me. Like, I can throw my mask on for a few days while they're here and take it off, right? So it wasn't until my aunt came to live here. Now, when she first came to live here, my mother warned me. She was like, Keita, you don't know them like I know them. Keita, you need to come straight home. I wanted to, like, my aunt was more cool. My mother only listened to gospel music. She raised us in the church. We couldn't go nowhere but to school and church. That was about it. There was no. When I got older, I kind of could hang out in the mall. Hold on one second. Okay, so we kind of, as we got older, I was able to hang out at the mall, but I couldn't do too much. Like, literally, I was almost housebound. And y'all already know, I spent much of my middle school years in the house because I was bullied and stuff. So, getting high school, getting away from my bully, and being able to do things that I never could do, actually have some type of social life or whatever. So I didn't quite go from being bullied to not bullied, but well, it was not bullied, but from rags to riches. So from I didn't go from bullied to popular, but I went from bullied to not being bullied to being almost accepted, right? So I wanted to get out. I wanted to socialize because I literally had not. And at that time, I had went from my ugly duckling stage to that beautiful swan stage. Y'all, I'm 43 years old. I just woke up. I got bags from here to there because I stay up all day. I'm an artist. I'm on my grind. I'm trying to make something happen. I have got to get out of working a 9 to 5. So with all that said, I don't look all that cute right now. Cute will come later, possibly, if I can get off this workship, as I refer to it, constantly working, not being able to be in your purpose, right? Um, so that's why I ain't all cute right now. But back then I was very cute. So I went from being the shunned person that they threw rocks at and called Scarface to being the beautiful girl that even some guys that threw rocks at me now want to talk to me. They never gave me the time of day. I was always invisible to them, but now all of a sudden you see me, right? So it was in that stage. So I wanted to get out. And my parents, they didn't understand that I wanted to go places with my friends and stuff like that. Like my dad, he was from deep South Mississippi, and he was like, "There's nothing. That town shut down at 6 o'clock, right?" So he was like, "You don't need to go nowhere. I never went nowhere," and it was like, I don't know. So he didn't understand why I wanted to get out the house and kind of live life a little bit, other than school and church. But, I guess parents do know best, but you don't find that out till you come around the block, right? um, so when my aunt moved here, she listened to rap music. She listened to R&B, all the stuff that I could not hear. All you heard around my house was like the old gospel records, Mahalia Jackson, Shirley Caesar, which are greats. Now, like I so am glad that my mother like just immersed us in that. But that's all we really heard. Like my mother didn't even like what do you call that, contemporary gospel. She did not even like that. It was all traditional gospel music. So here's my aunt, my cool aunt from Chicago, that listens to rap music, and I could watch the music videos at her house. It was things that I could not do in my household, that I could do at her household, right? So I desired to have fun. I wanted to know what was going on. Like all the other kids at school were up to date on all types of stuff, and I wasn't, because we couldn't listen to nothing but Mahalia Jackson, right? And listen to audio of Charles Stanley. I don't know if anybody knows who Charles Stanley is, but my mama loved Charles Stanley. So it was two different households, right? Like even they were able to watch rated R movies, and they were younger. My cousins were younger than me. And I remember I couldn't watch a rated R movie. Like I had to, my mother cringed when it was PG-13. She's like, I don't know. Like all I could really do when I went to the movies previous was go to see things that were PG or G. If it was PG-13, she was like, I'm not sure, Kita. And then a lot of times she would have me take the kids with me, my little sisters. There's a big age gap between me and my little sisters, so it wasn't a lot of that in my household. So I could kind of indulge in those things at my aunt's house. So she moved here when I was 17. I would have to ride the school bus home from school, and I used to. I wanted to be at my aunt's house all the time, right? So I would ride the city bus, and it would go to the other side of town where my aunt lived, and I would go hang out over there after school, and then my mom would come pick me up. But my mother didn't really like that. She didn't like me constantly hanging over at my aunt's house. And I couldn't understand why. I thought it was more so that, oh, mom wants to ruin my life. Like, you know how teenagers are. Mom wants to ruin my life. She doesn't want me to have any fun. She doesn't want me to do this, and that. Just because she didn't get to do this and that doesn't mean I don't want to do it. And that's how the teenage mind works, right? Because this is not my channel for that, but on my Justice channel, They say a lot of the people that were affected by the criminal justice system, they kind of just threw them away when they could have actually rehabilitated them. And the reason they could have tried to rehabilitate them is because they know now that the brain is not fully developed until you're about 25. So, all the way up into 25, there are just some concepts you cannot even conceive, right? And so, we are fighting for criminal justice reform. Some of these people that they threw away for life for offenses that weren't even really, that horrible, or offenses that if you did them today, you would not get decades and decades in prison. Trying to get them to reform it and take that into consideration and resentence these people instead of just keeping them caged. Justice is supposed to be just, but this is not that channel, so I gotta cut that out. But yeah, so I lost my train of thought. Hold on one second. I probably have to go back and edit this out. What was I talking about? No, I was talking about going to my aunt's house and my mother not wanting me to go over there. Oh, the brain not being developed. I'm sorry, girl. My brain going to bed because the brain is not fully developed. So I couldn't understand why you think your parents are just keeping you from living your life, and it's not. And you truly cannot understand it. You cannot. And I used to take on that viewpoint with my daughter, that I know she can't understand what I'm saying right now. I'm going to tell her, I'm going to try to teach her, but I always take into the account when she lashes back, well, back when she was growing up, that she can't understand it now, but she will understand one day, right? So I always just thought my mother was just being mean, super strict. Like even when I turned 18, my mother had a curfew on me, and I literally couldn't go nowhere still at 18. Thinking I'm grown. My mother, when I would come in late, for me to even go anywhere, I would have to tell her that I'm working a double shift at my job, or I'm going in early to work. And I always worked the night shift, right? Or it would be crazy. So I couldn't just go nowhere. And when I would come in late, my mother would put the house alarm on. And when I walked through the door, it's meow, meow, meow. So she could say, Kita. And this is how she talked. Kita. She look at her clock. It's 11 a.m. I mean, I'm sorry. No, I never stayed out all night. It's 11 p.m. Why are you out at 11 o'clock at night? You know ain't nothing in them streets but trouble at night. Now, my young mind can't perceive that. But we're going back to 17 when my aunt came here. So that was why I would go over there all the time, because it was a release. She kind of paid a little bit more attention than my mother, because my mother was always busy. She had 3 kids. Well, I'm sorry, she had me, so 4 kids, and she had a stepdaughter, my dad's firstborn child. But she had moved back to Chicago. But my mother did raise her as she was her own. So I would say my mother had 5, but it was actually 4 at that time frame. And I'll get into that later as to how it feels like there were 2 different households I grew up in. Like the household with my older sister that moved back, myself, and my first sibling under me, that household. And then when my sister moved and it became me, my sister under me, and the 2 little ones, that household, there were 2 different household structures. And it felt like I was grandfathered in under the old structure. And then the 3 kids under me were under this structure and these rules. That's what, dang, this is not the channel for that. Criminal justice reform, but criminal justice literally has 2 separate things that they go by in law. Though they say we're just and we're equal, we're not. We're not treated equally. They treat some of us like this over here under these rules and standards, and some of us over here like this under these rules and standards, and then they tell us we're equal. But just use that as an analogy, since this is not the channel for that. But yeah, so it's like we lived under 2 different household structures. So a lot of times that is why I would go to my aunt's house, to just get away from, so much like the strict parenting and the chaos in the house from the kids being all over the place and stuff like that. So that was just to give you a little background as to why I latched on so much to my aunt. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm sorry, it is 21 minutes in, and it actually should be a separate video, but should we do a separate video or should we keep going? I guess since we're trying to do this video more structured, this channel more structured than my other channel. My other channel is kind of free flow. You get me as me. So maybe I should. But that was just to lead you into this story. Because this story we come back to all the time. You know how narcissists never forget the things that they do for you? And this one thing that my aunt did over, what was that, 99? It was 98 or 99, and we are in year 2024. But I actually did the final discard with my aunt in 23. So from 2023. So from 99, so 2019. I'm sorry, 99, 09. 19, then you got, so it's been about 24 years. 24 years later is when I finally did the final discard, and just realized that she has that reprobate mind, and she's not. I still pray for her. I do. I know God can change her. God is the only one that can change her. And I still pray for her well-being. I know she's going through a lot right now, but I know that God can still, he still can change people. So that is my hope, and that is my hope that before she leaves this earth, that she will seek out God for herself. Seek the Lord for yourself. Ask the Holy Spirit into your heart so that you can be set free of this curse that stemmed in our family line. All right, guys, I will be right back because I'm going to tell you this story of her helping me with my prom that I can never pay her back for. I'm so glad I'm finally able to tell this story, because in narcissistic relationships, things that hurt you, you can never talk about. So I'm so glad I'm able to talk about it with you guys now. All right, guys, see you later.